Russell Henderson was the first of the two perpetrators to go to trial in Laramie. He was convicted of murder and kidnapping and is serving 2 consecutive life terms in prison. Company member Stephen Belver.
The folks at the prison's visitor entrance pat me down, lock up my valuables, and stamp my hand. And then I'm ushered through an outdoor corridor into a vestibule where doors shut behind me, before another pair opens before me. And then I enter into the visitor's room where I see Russell sitting at the table with the low partition. He has no attitude, no show, just a balding 30-year-old man in an orange jumpsuit.
Me and Aaron worked together at a roofing company for about 3 months before that night. We hung out a fair amount. I was working at the Conoco at the roofing place at the same time.
Had you ever gotten into drugs?
Not really. Never been on like a drug binge.
One of the things people keep saying about that night with Matthew is that you guys were on the back end of a 2-week meth binge.
I wasn't. Last time I'd done any drugs was on my birthday, which was 2 weeks before that night. I'd only done a little bit. I don't know about Aaron.
And had you ever robbed people before?
Never. I mean, I was one of those guys who was brought up with values, but I actually believe them. I believe the values. I was raised not to hurt people, and I agreed.
So, why did you go along with Aaron that night?
First I told Aaron I didn't want to. He kept saying no, but he kept wanting to, so I finally just went along.
Why?
I guess I'm more of a follower, he's a leader, so I just went along.
Okay. But when you did rob Matthew, why did you take him to the fence? I mean, you had his wallet in the truck, no?
I'm just gonna rob him and leave him out there so it'd be stuck out there.
Can you tell me what happened when you got out to the fence?
Aaron told me to tie him to the fence, but I didn't actually tie him. I just wrapped the rope around his hands because, you know, I figured I wanted him to be able to leave.
And so, when Aaron started hitting him over and over...
I just wanted it to stop. I wanted to hide, make it go away. So I just did what I always did. I hid. Tried to escape, pretend like it's not happening. Instead of being more strong. I didn't think I could stop him. That's why I went back to the truck.
Well, one story I've always heard is that you tried to stop him from beating Matthew.
Let's just say I tried to stop him, but I didn't try enough. You know what I mean? I didn't. It's mostly just, you know, shame. But I didn't do more.
What do you wish you'd done differently?
I wish I'd have stopped him. I made the wrong choice to go along from the beginning. I made the wrong choice to tie him up. I made the wrong choice not to get help. I thought about it a lot, but every single thing I did, I wish I could just change what I did.
Your grandmother told me that you'd taken a victim empathy course.
Yeah, that's what they have you do. What they have you do is actually draft a letter to your victim, which I did. I chose Matthew's family because even though Matthew was no victim, so was his family. And a part of that is you write about a time in your life when you were a victim.
And what did you write about when you were a victim?
About when my mom was killed, which was obviously different circumstances and a different level of attention, but you know, we both lost family members in violent crimes. You know, my mom was killed in Laramie. She was raped, and the guy just left her on the side of the road. She tried to make it back to town, but she froze to death. Writing about that really helped me. Made me understand the pain I had caused to Matt and to Matt's parents and family.
Is that the letter you tried to send to Judy Shepard?
It prepared me for what I wrote to her.
And did you ever hear back from her?
I don't even know if she read it.
What do you say to people who say you're just saying you're sorry now because you want your sentence reduced?
I don't know. I can't really do anything about that. For a long time I thought about it. A long time I thought about how sorry I was for the whole world hating me. But now, all I want to say is that I'm sorry for what I did to Matt's family. That's what I would want to say. I still have trouble about what I did, what I didn't do, and how I'm going to deal with that for the rest of my life. I still wake up, I'm still trying to figure out why I did what I did.
As you think about your future, do you know do you have hope?
Hope?
Yeah,
For what?
I don't know, to get out?
No, I don't have any hope for that. Mostly no, I just try to accept it.
Are you religious at all?
I mean, I grew up as a Mormon, and my grandmother still is. She's really involved with the church, but after all this happened, I got excommunicated, so I've had trouble sort of dealing with that.
So, what went wrong, Russell?
The only explanation I can offer is that I was young and I thought I was strong and could handle whatever the world could throw at me. When this happened, I realized that none of that was true. I was weak and scared, and all I did was hide from it. Every day I played out in my mind what I could have done or what I should have done, but none of it matters because I didn't do it.
How's your relationship with Aaron these days?
We're cordial. You know, we're sort of attached forever by this thing, so he has his friends, I have mine, but we see each other every day. We're cordial. I mean, he's a character, you know? He's the one people are going to want to hear.
There was certainly the hope and desire that something like this would never happen again.
Catherine Connolly.
But then you just constantly see the stats of hate crime violence. Violence toward gays in this country is going up, not down. And we still don't have any kind of hate crime legislation on a state level or on the federal level. But one should not be naive. We certainly know from any kind of social movement that we still have racism. We still have sexism. Those haven't gone away. There's a whole lot more that needs to be done. So that's why I am running for a House seat in the Wyoming legislature.
On November 4th, 2008, Catherine Connolly won the House seat, becoming the first openly gay member of the Wyoming legislature. Six months later, we traveled back to Laramie to conduct more interviews. The recession finally caught up with Wyoming. The week we were there, the university announced it had cut $18 million from its budget at the request of the governor. The front page of the Boomerang announced 45 people lost their jobs at the university. Days later, the domestic partner benefits finally came to a vote. From a University of Wyoming press release.
The University of Wyoming has been considering a domestic partnership initiative for several years now. At a special closed-door meeting, the Board of Trustees approved funding for domestic partnership benefits.
Woohoo! In the middle of a wild and prairie, change has occurred. It only took 10 years, but it passed.
Employees, and it is passed after other universities. Beth Lafreda.
It's good news. The vote was 6-5, so we feel lucky it came out okay. But there is this language of delay in the plan.
The board's vote directs that the system be implemented only when UW President Tom Buchanan determines it's physically feasible to do so. UW recently announced sweeping budget cuts.
That language of delay just makes me crazy. As if nobody's getting hurt or burdened while we just wait a little longer. The spectacular dishonesty of people in power who enjoy all of the benefits right that they are denying to other people.
Lee Fondakowski.
We met up again with Kathy Connolly a few months after her term as a representative began to ask her how it was going.
Well, I went through freshman training in the House of Representatives, so I'm a freshman. And one of my first orders of business was the Defense of Marriage bill introduced in the House. A constitutional amendment. It was one of those, like Proposition 8 in California. Our bill was called Resolution 17. a bill defining marriage in Wyoming as being exclusively between a man and a woman. Bills first must be heard and passed out of a committee before they are debated on the House floor, of course. I testified in that committee against the bill. I came out in that committee. Imagine that. I brought in my son's birth certificate. My son's birth certificate has 2 women on it, recognized by the state of New York. And I said, look at this. We're recognized as a family unit. And we came here and we raised our son, and Wyoming didn't fall apart because of it. But the resolution had enough support to make it out of committee, and therefore it made it to the floor of the House.
House Joint Bill Resolution 17, a joint resolution proposing to amend the Wyoming Constitution specifying that a marriage between a man and a woman shall be only the legal union that shall be valid or recognized in the state of Wyoming.
The bill, of course, was introduced by a Republican, Owen Peterson. So he spoke first.
Mr. Chairman, there are many reasons why the institution of marriage between a man and a woman benefits society. More than 30 years of studies have shown that kids raised by 2 married biological parents are more successful and better behaved in school, more likely to attend and graduate college, less likely to live in poverty, less likely to drink or do drugs, less likely to commit crimes, less likely to be physically abusive. Now, I can't stand here and say that because there is a marriage between a man and a woman, everything is hunky-dory with society. That's not the case. But this research has shown that children that have daily access to the daily complementary ways that mothers and fathers present, studies have shown that that has a definite significant impact. And since I have 3 children, 7 grandchildren, that is definitely the way.
And he went on for probably 10 minutes. And in the Wyoming legislature, we have a desk mate. And my desk mate, she finally leans over to me and says,
"You don't have to hear this. You don't have to."
and so I just got up and walked out. But one of my colleagues, who's incredibly conservative, I walked by him and he said to me,
"I'm sorry, this will be over soon."
so I went back to my seat.
Mr. Chairman, since the beginning of civilization in every known society, governments have recognized the marriage between a man and a woman because it provides the next generation outstanding citizens and is the only means of melding 2 sexes into a stronger and more complete whole. I exhort the body to move forward and pass this resolution. I will relinquish the floor and stand for questions.
And so that happened. We needed 21 votes to strike it down. We only had 19 Democrats. 3 or 4 of them didn't want to do it given the districts they're from. So we knew we were going to lose. We're going to lose. And then another conservative, Chairman Childers, spoke.
Ladies and gentlemen, I too have been married 46 years. I have 3 lovely children, and I'm very proud of them. 2 are sons with 2 granddaughters, and another one on the way. My 3rd daughter lives in Montana. She's gay. She has a significant other. They aren't married because Montana's law doesn't allow it. But folks, to my dying breath, there's not anybody in this country could say that she is a terrible person or a something person that needs to have their rights restricted. She lives a quiet life with her significant other. most people would never know she's gay. And quite frankly, until she graduated from college, my wife and I didn't know it. Freshman year, very first semester, we had a counselor say she better come home. And why? Well, we had no idea. But she came home because the counselor was very concerned about what was happening to her. And quite frankly, I think there was a possibility of suicide. She has grown from that point to a very stable person and productive, and does things for society quite well. She represents a healthcare faction for the Physical Therapy Association, travels all over the nation. Smart? Oh Lord, she's smart. Good person. But what we're doing with this constitutional amendment, should she have lived here, is to deny her civil rights. You know, folks, I grew up in the South. The town that I grew up in was segregated. Now, you think about a gay person in redneck country. I can say that because in Northeast Texas, that's redneck country. And the prejudice against the gay and lesbian community is there. I'll guarantee you. And that hate in their eyes, or the fear in the gay person's eyes, is there. Do we want a society in this state to do that? Do we want to deny the rights of a gay and lesbian person? I don't think so. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill is wrong. And I suggest you vote against it.
It was incredibly moving. But at this point, we have counts of where we think this was going. It's going to pass. It's going to pass. We probably have 10 or 15 undecided. And then one last Republican stood up. A very powerful man in Wyoming politics, maybe running for governor in the next election. He got up and he said,
"We are the state of Matthew Shepard and the state of Brokeback Mountain. But we're also the state of Esther Hobart Morris, the first female justice of the peace in the United States, and Nellie Taylor Ross, first woman to serve as governor of any U.S. state. And if we let Resolution 17 out of this body, our state will be ripped apart at the seams, quite frankly. It will divide families, divide churches, divide neighbors, divide friends, and it will cause a political havoc that this state hasn't seen in decades. I urge you to vote against this bill."
We have heard this issue, and I think it is time to cast a vote. Mr. Chairman, I call for the question.
and then came the vote.
The question having been called, the chief clerk will call the roll. Peterson.
Aye.
Barbuto.
No.
Brechtel.
Aye.
Brown.
No.
Blake.
No.
Buchanan.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Childers.
No.
Connolly.
No.
Davidson.
Aye.
So we are the state of Matthew Shepard and the state of Brokeback Mountain. And as the 10 years has gone by, people resent it. People resent that they are from the place where that gay kid was killed.
That concludes the vote. We will review the count.
But in the end, Resolution 17, our Defense of Marriage bill, failed. It failed by 35 to 25. It failed. It did not pass. And it was Republicans. It was Republicans that defeated it. It was amazing. It was amazing to me.
Company member Andy Paris.
We had a chance again to talk with Dave O'Malley, Chief Investigating Officer for the Matthew Shepard case for the Laramie Police Department.
You know, quite frankly, before all this happened, that's how I believe, pretty homophobic. And from where I was then to where my mind lays and my heart lays now is 180 degrees. Why does it take a young man like Matt getting killed for me to start losing my ignorance? You know, because that's what it took. After this happened, Debris and I went to Washington 7 or 8 times with Judy Shepard to advocate for the federal hate crimes bill. What's been the most difficult part for me to comprehend is that the legislation would have passed in 1999 under Clinton if sexual orientation wasn't included. It would have passed the next time, but gender identity was the hang-up. And Bush, of course, was threatening his veto if you put that language in there. So here it is, 3 administrations later, and the legislation is still not a reality.
Until the day that the federal government decides to take a handle on this and make it a law, that's the only way we're going to start to get this thing to break. And we have to start at the top.
In 1998, it was called the Hate Crimes Prevention Act. In 2007, it was renamed the Matthew Shepard Act.
Company member Greg Perotti.
Aaron McKinney is in the state penitentiary in Virginia. I sent Aaron a letter asking if he would meet me. I never heard back, so I called Father Roger again to see if he could help me.
Well, I will send him a letter too. And Greg, ask Aaron about his remorse. Those of us who have done things in our lives that are really significant in their gravity, we are going to alter our remorse throughout the course of our lives. Sometimes that remorsefulness gets chinked one way and then gets bent in a different way, and then hopefully, by the time we die, we have it in the correct perspective. I think Aaron is not finished finalizing his experience of remorse. And remorse is something we all need to think about. So you ask him about that. And Greg, do him justice.
Father, how do I do Aaron McKinney justice?
You get to know him, Greg. Let him teach you what it's like to be Aaron McKinney, okay? Now, I will write him for you.
Aaron never replied to Father Roger's letter, but I put in a request to visit with Aaron anyway, and the prison approved it. I went ahead and booked a flight. I went through all the paperwork and questions and metal detectors and pat-downs. As I headed into the prison, I still didn't know if Aaron was going to see me. But as I passed through the very last alley port to the visiting room, there he was, in the very first seat. He had very bright green eyes and a lot of tattoos on his arms. The one on his right forearm said, "Trust no one." He gave me a firm handshake over a low metal partition. And when the guard leave, Aaron says,
"That's it. You can't reach over that partition again."
"Oh, okay. Thank you for seeing me, Aaron."
I threw your letter out. I thought you were the media. There's no way I was going to talk to you. I hate the fucking media, but when I got the letter from Father Roger that you were friends with him, I thought, okay, yeah, I'll see you. Father Roger's a good guy. He's definitely family.
Yeah, I love Father Roger.
Yeah. A big smile and the wind blowing back his face. That's my picture of Father Roger.
Those are amazing tattoos you have.
Thanks. Yeah, a couple guys in here do real good work. Homemade ink, hook a guitar string up to a battery. But it's not allowed, so you gotta have someone watching for the guards, and you always gotta stop when they come, so it takes forever. I'm working on a full shirt.
Wow. That's cool. So, you know we wrote a play and that you're a character in it, right?
Yeah, I heard about it. But I never saw it. I don't know what I say in it.
Well, it's all your words. We used your actual words from when Rob Debris interviewed you. That was all we had of you. And what was in the trial transcripts.
Trial transcripts?
Because when we were interviewing people, we couldn't actually speak to you.
Okay.
And we're just checking back with the characters 10 years later. So that's why I'm here. Just to see how it's been for you in the last 10 years.
Okay.
So what's it been like in prison all this time for you?
This place isn't too good. It's freezing. This and a real thin blanket is all you get. No sweater or anything, even for outside and in the winter. It's fucking freezing. They're pretty strict here, too. And they keep us in our cells all but 1 hour a day.
What do you do in your cell for 23 hours a day?
Nothing much. Work out, sleep, watch TV. I don't read much. I read a couple of books. I read Iceman. Did you ever read that?
No.
It's great, man. It's about this hitman for the mob. And then I read a couple of books about the Nazis. They were pretty informative. I'm pretty interested in that.
Okay. And what about the other places you've been?
Well, they've moved me and Russ like 5 times. We're always together. Wyoming was shit. Nevada was kind of scary. A lot of gangs. Got moved to Texas twice. Texas was a dream, man. It was pretty free. I wish I could get put back in Texas.
Any chance you will?
No telling. I think they're gonna send us back to Wyoming next. That'll suck.
And is there any chance, as far as your lawyers are concerned, that you will get out of prison altogether?
Man, I'm never getting out of here. You kidding? I'm like the poster child for hate crime murders. Shit, for years, after anything happened to a gay person, they throw my picture up there too. I'm never getting out. And you gotta resign yourself to it, or you go crazy. So you just try to enjoy yourself. Russ might get out. Shit, he should get out. He doesn't belong in here.
Do you see much of him in here?
Every day. He's a good friend. I'd give my life for Russ. He didn't do anything. I told him I would do anything in my power to get him out of here.
He didn't do anything that night?
Nothing.
Can you talk more about what happened that night?
I have a pretty bad memory about the whole thing.
So what do you remember, Aaron?
We definitely picked him up to rob him. I was dealing at the time, and I got this beautiful gun. Almost brand new Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum with a 10-inch barrel. Fucking huge, beautiful gun. So we went to the fireside, and I was definitely in the mindset to rob.
So you were looking for someone to rob?
Yeah.
So why Matt?
But he was overly friendly. He was obviously gay. That played a part in part of his weakness. His frailty. And he was dressed nice. Looked like he had money. I think he was drinking Heineken, some expensive beer. And it looked like he had a bunch of money in his wallet. It only ended up to be about $30. But so when he asked us for a ride, I said, definitely, man. It was gonna be easy.
Okay. So it started as a robbery. But you said you picked Matt because he was gay, and you said many times that you don't like gay people.
I don't.
So it sounds like his being gay did have something to do with it.
It's a possibility. The night I did it, I did have hatred for homosexuals. That might have played a small part.
So you're telling me hatred towards gays did play a part?
It might have played a small part. Yeah.
But it seems to me like it was more than a small part. In your initial interview with Rob Debris, you said he slid his hands like he was going to grab your balls, and that's why you hit him.
I said that?
In your interview.
That it might have happened. I barely remember that interview at all. That's what I said.
That's definitely what you said.
Maybe that happened. Like I said, I barely remember anything.
What do you remember? You got him in the truck.
Yeah, so we got him in the truck, and we're driving. I had the gun back behind the seat, and I reached back, grabbed it, stuck him in the face, you know, like Rob time. I even poked him in the eye with it. You want to be aggressive when you're robbing folks, so they'll believe you'll follow through.
And that must have been, well, so you made him give you his wallet.
Yeah, I made him give me his wallet. I do remember one thing that was eerie. He didn't seem scared at all. He was just looking at me. Even when I was hitting him in the truck, he just kept staring at me.
You were doing some pretty scary things, Aaron. You stuck a huge .357 Magnum in his face. You poked him in the eye with it, hit him in the head with it. Couldn't he have just been in shock?
I never thought of that. Yeah, maybe. He was complying with my demands. But even when I tied him up to the fence, it was odd. He really didn't seem to be scared.
So what happened next?
I took the gun by the barrel, so I was holding it like a bat. And I just beat him in the head with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Then he made a real weird noise and slumped over. You know, like they say people make a noise when they give up the ghost.
But he didn't give up the ghost. He held on for 6 more days.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to go back a minute. You said you tied him up.
Yeah, to the fence.
Okay, in Russ's statement, he said that he tied Matt to the fence.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. If Russell says he did something, then he did it. Russ is a man of his word. But I don't remember him tying him. I know I tied him.
So what about the hate crime issue?
I don't like gay people, it's true. But as long as they stay out of my way, I've got no problem with them. I mean, there's guys in here that do that. Nobody really jumps you because you're gay, unless you're a sex predator. They're like the lowest rung. They get problems here from everyone.
Okay. So let me ask you, you know in Russell's statement, when he pled guilty, he told the court that he was sorry and felt he deserved to pay the price for what he did. But in your trial, you never made much of a statement, so I'm wondering if...
Do I have remorse?
Yes. Yeah.
You mean, do I have remorse? Yeah, I got remorse. My dad taught me I should stand tall and be a man. I got remorse that I didn't live the way my dad taught me to live. That I wasn't the man my dad wanted me to be. As far as Matt is concerned, I don't have any remorse. I heard that Matt was a sex predator, and that he preyed on younger guys and had sex with them. So when I heard that, I was relieved. People might say I'm just trying to justify myself, maybe so. As far as I'm concerned, doing what he was doing, Matt Shepard needed killing.
Okay, You know those rumors about Matthew Shepard are not true, Aaron.
That's not what I heard.
Okay? So you have no remorse at all.
Actually, I do feel bad for Matt's dad. That must be hard to lose your son.
What about his mom?
For her too, yeah, I feel bad. Still, she never shuts up about it, and it's been like 10 years.
Well, Aaron, you brutally murdered her son.
Yeah, I know.
What about yourself? The ways you lived before you murdered Matt? You have no regret? There is nothing you would change in any way?
Hell yeah. All sorts of ways. I was a fucker as a kid, a real fucker. Lied to my dad a lot. I hate that. I fucking hate that. He's the greatest dad ever. All the trouble, the drugs. If I could change it, I would. I'd go to high school, graduate.
What if Father Roger were here with us? Could you look him in the eye and honestly tell him you don't feel any remorse for Matt?
I'd have to. I would never want to have to do it. You know how I feel about Father Roger, but I couldn't look him in the eye and not. I'd have to tell the truth. I do have remorse, but like I said, for all the wrong reasons. For my dad, for ending up in here, for getting Russ stuck in here. If I could go back and not be the one who killed him, I would. But I'm better off in here myself. I'm doing way better in here than I ever was out there. I met guys in here with a real sense of honor. Out there, people will stab you in the back for a nickel bag. Besides, I am a criminal. I should be around criminals. I was always drawn that way. Shit, I remember crawling through people's doggy doors when I was 8 years old to steal their shit. I don't know why, but I was always like this. Nature trumps nurture.
Did you ever see your son since the murder?
Never seen him since I was locked up.
Okay. Well, I think we're running out of time, Aaron. Before I leave you, I know you say you're never going to get out of here, but if you did, if you were going to get out, where would you go?
Shit, I don't know. Italy, maybe? Or Germany? I'm really interested in Germany. But I probably couldn't go there because I heard you can actually get arrested for some of the tattoos I have. I got some swastikas and I got Nazi across my lower back in big old English lettering. It looks amazing. I heard they'll put you in jail for that now in Germany. Italy's beautiful though. I would definitely like to see a little Italy. I used to always watch the Travel Channel in Texas, and whenever they'd show Italy, I always liked that the best. They don't have that channel here. We only got maybe 10 channels here. I'd really like to see New York too. I like skyscrapers, and you guys all got the most. That's where you're from, right? You guys are lucky. You got the best skyline. I wish I could go back to New York and look at the skyscrapers from the water.
Yeah, I really love New York. It's pretty great there. Well, thank you. Thank you for seeing me, Aaron.
Sure, man. Like I said, any friend of Father Rogers. Take it easy.
You too. Take it easy.
Company member Moises Kaufman.
10 years ago, during the trials of the two perpetrators, we met Judy and Dennis Shepard in Laramie. We saw them day after day in the courtroom as they watched the proceedings, and then faced the endless press conferences and media coverage. I sat down with Judy on July 11, 2009 to talk with her. Judy, when I met you at the trials, you were a very private person. You didn't want to talk publicly, but now you're a very public figure. You've been lecturing around the country and advocating legislative changes, and you've met with Clinton and Obama. How did that happen?
I'm just doing what a mother does when you hurt her children. I don't think I've done anything spectacular. I've told a story. I've kept Matt's story alive. And I certainly haven't gotten the hate crime bill passed yet. Not that it's solely my responsibility, but you know, I really haven't accomplished anything yet, other than maybe talk to people around the country about losing my son.
What can you tell me about him?
Well, I think I was pretty sure Matt was gay when he was 8 years old. Sometimes, you know, something in the back of your mind, you know, when he dressed up as Dolly Parton for Halloween for the third time. And he really worked at it, too. He got better each time he did it. He was always really serious about acting. He played the little brother in our town. When he turned 18, he called me in the middle of the night and he said, "Mom, I had something I got to tell you." And my first reaction was, "What took you so long to tell me?" And he said, "How did you know?" And I said, "It's a mom thing."
Judy, you know we met with McKinney this time?
Yes, I know. It will be interesting to hear what he has to say now. When Dennis and I made the recommendation to the judge to take the death penalty off the table for Aaron McKinney, we did that because we just didn't think taking away another son was going to fix anything. And we didn't think Matt would want that either. But it wasn't entirely altruistic. We also understood that if we took the death penalty off the table, we would never have to deal with McKinney again. No appeals, no nothing, he's just gone. And we didn't want Matt's brother Logan to have to deal with that in his life. He would just be gone. So when McKinney showed up on 2020, I thought, this is exactly what we didn't want. And here he is again, saying whatever he wants, whether it's the truth or not, changing his story.
This changing of the story seems to have really taken hold in Laramie.
Yes. I hear the hate in people's voices. They robbed him. How could you say it was a hate crime? I hear people quote the 2020 story to me still. So I'm not surprised. I've learned so much about people, what they choose to believe, if it makes them feel better, how they have to interpret things to make their own being better, to fit their own image of themselves.
I so vividly remember being at the trial and seeing you then. And now I see this woman, and they don't seem like the same person.
Yeah, I'm angrier now than I was then, because it's still happening. Sorry. Dennis said it best. 10 years of change, no progress. Meaning that yes, things have changed at the human level, at the grassroots level, but legislatively, legally, nothing has changed. The hate crime legislation hasn't passed on the federal level. Don't Ask, Don't Tell is still there. The Defense of Marriage Act is still there. We just can't make it to the top. So, here I am, at the 10-year mark, still fighting, and I had to adapt so I could keep doing this. The feeling would be that it all happened in vain. And I wasn't going to let that happen. Plus, just doing the work was my survival, was how I coped with losing Matt. I could keep him with me all the time. I was talking to someone and they said, well, don't you think it's time to let go? Don't you think you're keeping Matt alive by doing that? And I said, of course I'm keeping him alive by doing this. That's the point. That is exactly the point. And I can keep telling the same wonderful stories, and my friends don't say, Judy, you told my story, that story yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. I can just keep telling.
On October 28, 2009, just a few months after that interview with Judy, President Barack Obama signed the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act into law. Company member Andy Paris.
We heard that when the owner took down the fence where Matthew Shepard was killed, the pieces were incorporated into other fences. So no one knows what happened to the pieces of no one knows where the pieces of the original fence are.
Jonas Sloanaker.
I remembered where the place was, and I would still go back, and it's, yeah, the fence is gone. 10 years later, and the fence is gone. And 10 years of snow and rain have washed through there. It's just a place. In the end, I guess. And I've decided not to go back. I had to let go.
Dave O'Malley.
This is a photograph of the fence that my son took, and some people had been out and kind of made a little memorial there, and I don't know how many people came to town when I was still working at the police department to visit the fence, but I remember one older man, spent 30 years in the military, had to be in the closet the whole time. And Matt's death had a huge impact on him. He was from Vermont, and one day he just showed up. And I took him out to the fence. I did that with several people. It was important for them. It was important enough for them to come all the way to Laramie to see it. You know, but other than crime scene photographs, this is the only photograph of the fence that I've got.
We asked people if there were any final words they would like to share with us before we left Laramie.
Jeffrey Lockwood.
I don't think we're all that different. I think this could have happened in dozens or hundreds of communities, and 10 years later we'd be telling the same story. The difficulty that we have on reflecting on dealing with deep social justice problems, I think it's a warning. It's a warning to other communities that if they aren't extraordinarily intentional in the face of such tragedies, there will be no growth in 10 years. Well, there may be pockets of growth or individual growth, but there won't be community growth.
Beth Lafreda.
For all the people that want to castigate Laramie, they might remember that there are people here who are working. We're working hard. We are working hard. So when that work becomes more visible change, that might be another 5 or 10 years. But that doesn't mean that the work isn't happening.
Catherine Connolly.
There's a whole lot more for us to do, and we're going to do it. We have to do it. We have an obligation to do it. Our place in history is not insignificant. But when you really think about it, even in New York City, there hasn't been the kind of change that you're asking of us here. Has there?
Reggie Flutie.
And personally, I think somebody so small in stature sure made a huge difference in the whole dang world, you know? Because it just went further than Laramie for our community. It just went bigger than that. And you know, in life the man was so small, but his legacy is huge.
Moises Kaufman.
We're leaving Laramie again. I find myself thinking about 10 years ago and wondering, in the end, how this story will finally be written.
Stephen Belber.
Andy and I head back to Denver on the interstate.
Greg and I take the more scenic route south on 287.
And I think about the people of Laramie, both the people who have left and the people who still call Laramie home. And I think about Matthew.
This is Romaine Patterson.
Over the years, kind of define Matthew in two ways. There's the Matt that I knew and the good friend that I had. And then there's Matthew Shepard. And Matthew Shepard is very different from Matt. Matthew Shepard is the iconic hate crime that happened in our history, and Matthew Shepard is not necessarily about Matt. It's about a community's reaction. It's about the media, and it's about the crime, but it's not about Matt. And that was the distinction that I had to make, making my way through this storm over the years so that I could hold on to the Matt who was to me personally, but also recognize the importance of Matthew Shepard and that story and how it was told and will continue to be told throughout the years.